all, and welcome back to another thrilling episode of Off the Dome. I'm your humble interviewer, Jordan Brown, and with me for the very first time by himself is our intro inspirationist. Say hi, intro inspirationist.
Hi, intro inspirationist. That's my thing.
I didn't mean for it to become my thing. I think in a very similar vein that happened to you, of you did it once and then you have to do it for the rest of your life.
Knowing the eternal procession of bits when you work within the Dropout ecosystem, the second in Worlds Beyond Number, the first time Lou, I think it was our second fireside chat, and Lou did a fake name for himself.
Yep.
And I felt it, and I was like, that's the next 20 years of our lives.
Yeah.
on a whim, no less.
Oh boy. But then you get gems like Passport Jones, and you really...
I'm trying to think. I think Craig Sumge is really up there for me as far as names go.
Yeah,
Tomahawk.
That's a good one. Yeah. Craig, Adonis Guns, I always enjoy it when it is the worst possible spelling version of a name. Where it's like Yoda with H's, and like it just destroys me every time.
It really, Lou's mind goes to some places improvisationally that we don't always get to see reflected in his player characters. And it's like, I cannot wait for him to take his turn as a GM on Worlds Beyond Number, because Yoda with an H, that's what's waiting for us in there. You know?
Right. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. Brennan, this is so exciting. Thank you so much. Obviously, big fan of yours, because of course, who isn't, right?
Wow.
I have one very serious question right out of the gate.
Let's do it. I'm also a big fan of yours, by the way, so I appreciate. Hey, we're all out here creating content. We're all content creators, and I don't know if this is a tangent right out of the gate, but we almost ran into each other at Gen Con.
Yes.
Very nearly. But I was also sprinting out of that room. I was looking for Taylor and his beautiful beard had wandered off somewhere, and so I was looking for him.
Yeah. It was. I don't know if I've told you the story. It was truly the worst nightmare for me, because I had been hanging out with Taylor the whole night, and he had just left a minute prior to go get a drink from the bar, and I saw you walk in, not knowing that you would recognize me, because that's mind blowing. But because you're not on TikTok, so like it doesn't feel like you should have seen my things.
But I'm in a house that's on TikTok, and that's fair. We must remember for sure. Yes.
But and I saw you walk in, and I was like, if this had been 90 seconds ago, Taylor Moore would have been standing right next to me. But
here we are.
Here we are. This isn't actually a serious question. I never start with a serious question. When you see a new flavor of Oreo hits the shelves, does your whole body clench up with the number of times you're going to be tagged in pictures of that Oreo?
Weirdly, actually, that is a thing, is that some of the bits that I have done, they stretch out through eternity, right? Much like a Craig Sumge. And the Oreo one, I will take over sage grouses and spoonbills. You know what I mean?
Fair. Yeah.
I'm going to be perennially tagged in things. And at least with the new Oreos, that is feeding. When people tag me on birds, they are feeding my shame. And when they tag me in Oreos, they are feeding my rage. And rage is, I guess, an engine that I can strap into a little bit more to go about my day's business. Like, I see a spoonbill and I go, God damn it. And I see a red velvet cherry cola fucking Haley Joel Osment branded Oreo, and I go, sure, why not? It's all chaos anyway. So there you go.
Yeah. Fair. Brennan, Worlds Beyond Number. It's a really good podcast.
Thank you.
Big fan of everything that's going on. I'm assuming at this point you have recorded all of Arc 4.
No, I'm gearing up for it. I have all of the transcripts. I'm working with Jack Lavandowska, who's our lore keeper for Worlds Beyond Number. Very excited talking with Taylor about, we're going to have a recording camp coming up in a few weeks. Gearing up for the end of Arc 4. We're recording this just after Abyssin, the episode came out, which is, I think, the most cinematic, swelling orchestral score. Taylor and Jared Olson are geniuses. Erica, Bria, and Lou's choices are just brilliant. It's, I think, the most swelling cinematic combat I've ever been a part of that it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's perfectly edited. Of like all of the nonsense is not nonsense, but like
Yeah.
D&D nonsense of like, okay, now where is everybody? Like those questions are all gone. Like it's all just like it's just a dead sprint. I got it a day early, which was the greatest thing in the world. Taylor was like, "Get your best headphones," and I was like, "Oh, I don't have good headphones. My head is too big, and I've never found a pair that I enjoy wearing." But I did listen to it, and then the next morning I posted a video immediately about it, and someone was like, "How have you already listened?" I was like, "Oh, did you guys have to wait until today to hear it?" Because that's my favorite game on the internet.
I love it. I love it so much.
But okay, you're a couple weeks out from the end of Arc 4 then, and
Yes.
that means for you, there is a transition here in my head that's happening. That means
Great.
for you, Umora will be ending pretty shortly for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and really what it is too is I think that there's I've sort of woken up, what was it? Like Worlds Beyond Numbers coming up on 2 years out, but we've been working on it for more than 3. And I think that there's an element of all of this, of realizing like, oh shit, this is not going away. Like realizing that
Yes.
creating actual play is not going away, and there can be moments of changing of spotlight. I think that for people to know, like Umora, the end of book 1 of this first book of the story of Ursulon, Ame, and Suvi is the break from it is an essential and purposeful part of the storytelling of it. Like, I am so excited to see Abria take us to outer space, and I also
or jail. Who knows?
Or jail.
Yeah.
Could be both. Either or both. But I think that I very much see it not as a goodbye to Umora, but rather like we are going to put the chili in the fridge, and when we reheat it tomorrow, it's actually going to be better. It will be better for the rest, the fallow period of letting these characters. And again, we've gone through so much of the world building that I've done, and there's so much more beyond chapter 4 of book 1. But I think it will all be benefited by a fallow period and returning to these characters. I mean, I already have some thoughts for book 2, what the next couple chapters will be. Ooh, baby, I cannot wait. To get back. I mean, I very much can, and I'm going to wait. But in the emotional sense, I cannot wait.
Yes. But another reason why I ask is, what if it wasn't the end of Umora, and we played together in a one-shot in Umora on January 18th to fundraise for Doctors Without Borders? What do you think, Brennan?
I think that sounds phenomenal. I think that what is it? Médecins Sans Frontières is the.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's fucking do it, man. I think let's go to Umora. Let's raise money for a great cause. I think people January 18th should strap in. Let's do it.
Yeah, someone, because I've been posting cast announcements this week. You have not been posted yet. And someone messaged me, Citizen Doctors Without Borders. And they don't know that you're going to be on it yet. And I was like, well, I'm stealing that. But would you like to play as a witch in your own world?
I would love that. I would love that. I do. I want to play as a witch.
Great.
Done deal.
So my thoughts are, I've written notes down. Just outside of the Halaker Forest is Stone Rill. So this will be a witch near Stone Rill, where like the story, like our little action point is going to take. If that helps you in your like thinking of like what kind of witch would be there. Obviously pre-Wizard Witch and Wild One, because like there's a big war there right now, and that would make things difficult if I was like, and also simultaneously this thing is happening.
The canonicity.
Not knowing knowing what's happening. But yeah, if I do a good enough job DMing, will it become canon?
Yes, and actually, it's already become canon, and that's because what I like to do is I'm already Marvel 616ing everything. We're already doing all the alternate. So what's going to happen is it will be Citizen Doctors Without Borders. My witch will be another universe version of Abraham Hermbler. It will tie in, I'm afraid, to not only Spire and Fantasy High, but also Exandria, and it's and I want to create for you, Jordan, essentially a legal minefield. I want to I want to create the most complex intellectual property I possibly can for this charity one shot, and that's my gift to you.
Great. Thank you so much. I do know that if you are told a character is only going to exist for a few hours, you're going to get weird with it. And I expect nothing else. You know how I sold this to Abria? I was like, look, because it's going to be run like Haley, Whipjack, and the crew's Unprepared Caster stream that you can pay to people can pay to level up your characters. And I was like, look, you're not going to get to play as a high level Wizard of the Citadel for like a decade at this point. So what if you get to rock one right now? And she was like, yeah, that's the best possible selling point for me. So
I fucking love it. I love it
yeah.
so much. Also, being a witch would be delightful. I feel like witch, we designed it for Erica specifically, but a wisdom-based arcane caster is secretly, in my heart of hearts, a thing I've always wanted to play. Because wisdom is my favorite ability score, and but I love an arcane caster, so witch is kind of right up my alley. And you get a little talking critter.
Yes, I'm excited. At some point, I am going to pester you about character design. We don't have to do that today, but because I do have an artist, my dear friend Kate Zellers is drawing up some character art for the stream. So you'll have to give me some witch specs. But yeah, I think it's going to be super fun.
Jordan, can I ask you to break the rules of the witch class and give me an unusual familiar?
Yes, you can.
Can I have a donkey as a familiar?
You absolutely can have a donkey. I've never been more excited for anything in my life.
Let's go. Let's go. I want it.
Oh, delightful. Yeah, because it's Haley, it's Whipjack, because that was my first ask. It's Christina Ariel, it's Iffy Wadiway, it's Danielle Radford, it's Abria Iyengar, and it's you. Look, I've put together a Dimension 20 level cast, and then I'm there, and that's terrifying.
You're gonna crush, man. I can't wait. Oh. I'm so excited. It's
gonna be delightful. Also, you mentioned Jack. This is in my notes. Can you tell Jack Morgan EF Lewandowska, because I wanted to make sure we get all the names, the particulars. Yes. To give me lore notes for the one shot.
Let me go ahead, making a note. Beep boop boop. Ba-doop, ba-doop. And this is content as well. Everything is content as well.
Everything is content.
Making a note on my to-do list is content for the internet. There we go.
Jack and I are friends, and I was messaging Jack about this, and Jack was like, I don't know what I can tell you. And I was like, I'm writing down right now that I'm going to tell Brennan for you to tell me things.
Jack has a glossary for Umora that'll make your socks roll up and down. It's so beautiful.
I'm so excited. I do actually have a weird but serious-ish question. This is a thing. So I'm chronically online, right? Too much so. It's how I build my brand. But a thing that I run into a lot is people who love you but hate Emily Axford and Abria Iyengar and variations of that. And I think we can probably guess why that happens. My stance has always been that you would not be a fan of those people. That you would have a pretty hard and fast line of hey, knock it off. Am I in a general zone of correctness?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, sexism and racism is at play, and those people are fucking troglodytes, and they are blasting to the bottom circle of hell the moment they die. So yeah, I can put me on record as saying so. Yeah, for
Perfect.
sure.
That's exactly what I wanted. Oh, that's exactly everything I've ever. Because I was like, man, I gotta ask Brennan because it's the number of times where I've seen people be like, now Brennan is great, but Abria, it's like, nope, we're not doing that. That's your favorite DM's favorite DM. You shut your mouths.
Well, it's all deeply dehumanizing, and it's all. I mean, I assume, the point you're making about being chronically online. I think amongst internet creators, I'm probably way on the chronically offline
Mm-hmm.
direction. And it's because the whole process is, how do I put it? Um, the human brain cannot handle what media does to you.
Yeah.
Which is that suddenly, every part of your brain is hardwired to believe that anyone that knows your name is someone you're in community with. Like, what the fuck is a tribe? What the fuck is a community? Or what is a family group? What is how much of us is like, oh, if someone yells my name behind me, I turn around because I know them, right? And so the idea that thousands or millions of people know your name and feel a certain way about you is not something that you can process healthily, and you have to create boundaries around that. And conversely, the people that you're talking about that have awful things to say, first of all, they're wrong. Second of all, they're mean. Third of all, the reason they're expressing that out loud is because of a deep, deep hole in them that they can't fill up with posts. And, I think that there's a reality that is very that is like, you have to just create boundaries and distance with that, because it's not a referendum on anything other than the failure of the software. The brain cannot process the fact that you are, even in positive ways, commodified. And you are, you just sorry to bring it back around, you become Oreos, right? You become, as a person, you have like a grocery store shelf that you are on digitally for people. And even when they like it in the way that they like Oreos, and you have to detach your personal sense of self from that, lest you go mad.
That's it's exactly what I expected from you. Speaking of boundaries, this is my transitions are never good, but they do kind of exist. One time, my wife said to me, "You need to become friends with Brennan and Izzy." And I was really surprised because, like, she is not like that kind of person of like, oh, I want celebrity friends or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she was like, because when we visit my cousin in LA, I want to babysit. And I was like, oh no, now I understand. You have no interest in actually like hanging out with Brennan and Izzy. You want to see a cute baby. And I was like, nah, this is why I married you. I was very confused for a minute, but now we're back on track.
Your wife wants me and Izzy to babysit your baby?
No, she wants to babysit your baby.
Oh, got you. Okay, I understand. I was like, that's a long con. I was like, that's a fucking, I love that. Hell yeah. No, I think that well, that's a funny thing too, is like the something that I think myself and Abria and other people navigate also is actually becoming friends with people whom you are aware of. Oh, I just made myself so sad thinking about I was about to use a phrase that a friend of mine used. A friend of mine, Tigre Bailando, who is an incredible artist who passed away a few years ago. People should look up their work. They're stunning visual artists. They were a dancer and a performance artist, and passed away a few years ago. And you can see that there's foundations set up in their name and artistic nonprofits that they advocated for in life. And they, in the few months before they passed away, they reached out to me, letting me know that they were playing Dimension 20 in the background in the shop that they were like working on, and they had friends that were fans of the show. And they said this thing that was very sweet, which was, I love you, and my friends love your digital corona. And I've thought about the term digital corona for a long time, because it was, in other words, what I loved about it is it's a weird thing to navigate because people's affection is genuine. I know that because the love I have for authors and performers whose work has impacted me is not parasocial. It is parasocial, but it's not disingenuous. The authors that shaped my brain, like if I met Ursula K. Le Guin, I'd fucking burst into tears. Like it's very genuine because the impact is genuine. How could it not be genuine? But so I love that Tigre put it as they love your digital corona. The love is genuine. It is LOVE, love. There is nothing sinister about loving someone who's the only part of them that you have access to is their work. But they made a distinction between I love you because we are friends, and they love your digital corona. In other words, their love is real. The part that that we're acknowledging is that it's an extension of you. It's a digital corona around you. And I just thought that was it made me feel very seen to hear from an old friend and not have them be like, I love you and my friends love you too. It's like, oh, we're going to set a delineation between what is you and what is the extension out from you.
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
Really beautiful. And please go check out as we're talking, I'm going to look up because I want to share, if I can, the stuff that that matter. But the funny thing I was going to say is like for people like me and Abria and everyone else who's on the show, you also have the weird thing too of having to navigate moving from, because I met Matt Mercer, who is a dear friend of mine, after I watched the Vecna fight at the end of campaign 1. So you have this moment of being like, oh, I have to navigate slowly extricating someone from their own digital corona as I move into actual community with them. And it's something that takes us a lot of skill, I think, to navigate gracefully, for sure, The organizations I want to shout out are Little Globe and Earthseed Black Arts Alliance.
I will link them wherever links go. I'm on it. It is very strange, like having become friends with a lot of people now that like tangentially connected to you is like Abria and I are, well, we're mortal enemies, but also friends.
Sure.
And it's one of those, it's a very strange thing where like that transition happens where you've moved to like Iffy as well and Christina, like people who I genuinely have told that I love, and not like I love your work, but I love you as a human being. And it is a very strange thing because it all started basically in this room of me just being like, hey, what's up? Here's some nonsense for you. And then me texting them to be like, hey, you're great. How you doing? And unrelated to their shows, but also sometimes related to their shows because they make really good work. And it's hard not to, after you watch a really brilliant piece of media, it's hard not to text Abria, oh, that Nat 1, Abria, good God, the Nat 1 luck check. What happened? Like, you gotta check in on just some of the most iconic moments.
When your pals get a Nat 1, check in on them. Check in on your friends when they get a Nat 1. Absolutely. I think you have to. You must.
Speaking of Abria's got The Fade, new fantastic comic book. Very famously, one of the authors of Strong Female Protagonist, on
a blast from the past, a little deep cut,
an indefinite hiatus. Unfortunately, is there any other kind of story in the comics realm that you would like to explore, or are you too busy telling your stories elsewhere?
I would love that. And I should say that I have had conversations about some opportunities within comics, and it's great. It really is a bandwidth issue, but my God, I would love to tell some stories. There are stories I wanted to, the amount of like every good nerd, you have your takes. Like what would your takes be? What are the things that are interesting to you? Apparently, I have not been caught up on X-Men stuff because my favorite X-Man has become a horrifying villain in some recent in the past couple of years of issues, which is Beast from the X-Men, who has become who's involved in some naughty stuff. But I always loved from the cartoons, not only because Beast is a verbose nerd and also very hairy, so I have a lot of sympathy for the character. But also what I just loved is someone who I thought it was such an interesting thing for someone's gift to not define them, to be like, you will be a blue furry ape man with incredible acrobatics and strength, and him going, got it. I think the science thing is still a little bit more germane to what's happening. That's a little bit. I think that the super science, which is not a mutant thing, I kind of want to keep eyes on the prize a little bit. It's just so fun. The idea of in the mythic genre fiction realm of someone getting a sword, for like, this is Excalibur, and being like, great, I'm gonna put this down and keep writing the book. Like, thank you for that. Feels really great. And then I think that there's I would love to do a Superman story. I would love to do X-Men is fascinating to me. I love X-Men as well. Those are the things that I get drawn to in comics a lot. I think would be really, really cool. Flash, I love the Flash as well. The Wally West Flash from JLU. A lot of my I think more than comic books, probably what would get me up out of my seat would be, because I think I came to love most of these superheroes through their animated shows. Like a lot of people, I think, in my generation did. Like Batman the Animated Series, JLU, X-Men. Those were the stories that actually kind of introduced me to those characters, even though I grew up around comic books.
Yeah, that's man, I would love to read it. I bet you would write a very good Superman book, because I bet you wouldn't make him a bad guy.
It's so stupid. Why would he be a bad guy? He's Superman.
Yeah.
I think it's very funny because people will go like, how can you write a good Superman story? There's nothing to challenge him. And when fucking 99% of human literature is not about overcoming specifically physical immediate threats to your safety, like how much of literature is about big moral problems? And I don't know, does it feel relevant to anyone living in America in the 21st century about how power can be bad? Does anyone listening? It seems pretty relevant that Superman's incredible powers would actually be a huge liability and drawback to his ability to do the right thing, and that's the story.
Indeed. Hey, this is going to be a weird one, and you can absolutely tell me to cut this out afterwards. I think Tom Davis would be very proud of you and the work that you have done because of things like what you just said, and that like philosophical mindset that you have not only imparted like in your work, but I feel like you have made so many people who love your work think about that in ways that they wouldn't otherwise. Well, do you want to do a silly voice? Would that help?
That's very sweet. Let me grab something real quick. Hold on. I'm right over my desk. I gave a eulogy at Professor Davis's funeral. This was back in 2008. Here's Professor Davis as a young Brooklyn kid. And then this was the card given out at his funeral. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond's gift of snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the autumn's gentle rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die.
Oh no! Now I need to do a silly voice. That's stunningly beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's a beautiful.
I may have listened to you answer 99 questions in prep for this interview, which it took me several days to get through because it's 4.5 hours long.
Oh boy, we're not beating the Yapper allegations anytime soon. No, Bob runs such a fucking great podcast. I love 99 questions, and those. I mean, I was blown away because those questions. I thought there would be some like kind of throwaways, and just there were so many questions that was like, oh shit, that taps into something very that I care a lot about. But yeah, 4.5 hours is an insane length for a podcast, and I do apologize.
Hey, no, look, I go to the Y, I hit the stationary bike, I hit play, and an hour later, I go pick up my kid from the little playroom, and I see where I'm at. So
How about it?
Yeah.
Uh, well, man, I cannot think of a meaningful thing to say. If I have made Professor Davis proud, then that would be the whole point. Um, that was one of the hard things about him passing away, as many years ago as it was now, was just that when he passed, I hadn't talked to him in years, and I was in a place where I didn't feel like I had something to show. And it made me very aware that you must not wait till you feel like you have something to show, because that, tomorrow is not promised. Um, and I wish that, yeah, I wish I'd gotten to talk to him again after I'd left. And uh, there is I just think, I wrote in the eulogy I gave at his funeral. It's funny because I've shared something that I've tried to share before, and I think sometimes it resonates with people and other times it doesn't. Um, but the overwhelming emotion I felt when he passed, there's obviously personal grief, and that goes and comes in waves, right? But it was a feeling of exhaustion. I felt exhausted when I heard that he had passed, because when someone is like punching above their weight class, making the world a better place, it's like seeing, to put it in like TTRPG analogy, it's like seeing a titan go down, like seeing the standard bearer go down, seeing someone who is like, you're having the Infinity War fight and watching the Hulk go down, and you go, oh no, oh no, that's one of our main guys, and it just feels like there was a feeling of this guy was doing so much to light a fire in so many different people. And I am certainly not a philosopher. I am a comedian and tabletop role player. Who it's very funny, because I think that the when you do comedy and performance, and especially you improvisation, the objects of your fascination are always at the top of the bag of tricks. So it's like these things that I am absolutely not an expert in keep coming to the fore because I do improv, and so they're always bubbling up near the surface. But my sincere hope would be that anyone that has been oriented in that direction by consuming some of my work would go farther and actually not follow in my footsteps, but follow in Tom Davis's footsteps, and really dig in, because that was life-changing, and he was a life-changing person for so many people.
Yeah, don't follow in your footsteps. You don't need other people making actual plays. You got to corner that market.
Yeah, this is actually a sinister capitalistic play. This is real Saturn eating his children shit. I'm trying to nip it in the bud. Okay, don't come for the exactly.
Inspire a generation of philosophers, not actual play artists.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't look. I asked the question too early because we still have time left, and like I got other questions, but like the transition out of this moment is going to be horrible. Anyway, the fox, boy, that's a good character.
Thank you.
Hey, you've got now 2 stuffed plushes that speak your voice when pressed. That's gotta be weird.
Yes, it is. Everything about this is weird. My whole life is weird. It's all so strange. But I do like the spread. I like that the parameters. There's a lot of daylight between Galir Fayeth and the fox. There's a lot. There's a lot of daylight there. But I love them both for very different reasons, and they both come from very real places. There's just something about that sad elven man, and the fact of sharing misery and unprecedented bad luck in a voice reserved for status and authority is always going to be funny. And then the fox, it really comes from the heart, and it's very fun. It's very similar to play the fox as it is to play Ida Eggfort, in that it's getting to a place. it's more about what I'm turning off in my head than what I'm turning on, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, uh, uh, for the fox, he's so naturalistic and only cares about what he cares about, and it's very fun to play him as someone that is not hung up on human affairs and doesn't have there's so many concerns he doesn't have, and that's what makes him seem out of place sometimes, is the stuff that he's not worried about.
Yeah, yeah. It's always a delight. Fox heavy episodes, just the best. I will say, like, election week was the Fox sneaking through the town to get, and I was like, boy, this is the week I needed this episode, because it was stressful, but not like Worlds Beyond Number stressful. Like, it was not, oh no, the world is ending. It was like, the fox is yelling at other animals to let him through in a language he doesn't understand. What an incredible moment.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Truly, truly wild. And he did it. He got through. It is very fun. I do like the fox as a little guy doing stuff on behalf of Ame. There's some fun fox stuff coming up as well, I will say.
I can't wait.
As Ame levels up, the fox kind of levels up in her aura, in her wake, and that's a very fun thing too. So
delightful. Other absurd question: are you so excited now that you know that you can win the Horner Corner? That is a possibility.
Yes.
Can I tell you, I was right there with you. I had never heard of the Omegaverse before, and it's haunted my days and nights every moment since. And I hate Abria and Erica so much, but love them in the same vein, if that makes sense.
It's so wonderful. I never want to yuck anyone's yum, and I think it's so great. But it does feel, there is a fun part about the Horner Corner to me, where it's like this. There's such a miasma around it of a cultural. It's like a space beside the performance of that literary horniness is such a different energy than, and I don't want to be crass, real horniness. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we're like, oh my God, that tentacle monster, that's so hot. But you remember being a teenager and being next to someone who was actually too horny in broad daylight, and you're like, oh, this is different. I need to get away. I need to this energy. This person's having a hard, bad time. There is nothing celebratory or jovial about what's happening to my right over here. And I think that it's that there are parts of the Horner Corner that have come more online for me as I understand what the mission brief is, which is a celebratory, literary, academic enterprise.
Yeah, that just makes sense to me. Oh man, it's always a delight when we get a little peek into the Horner Corner, because it's going to be upsetting in the best possible way.
In the best possible way.
And it's a thing. Hey, Brennan, if people wanted to hear the Horner Corner, where would they be able to find segments like that?
I'm so glad you asked. You guys should head over to the Fireside. That's the Worlds Beyond Number Patreon. And for those that are listening, I know that your audience has heard about Worlds Beyond Number. And Jordan, thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. Obviously, I know that the accolades that you have bestowed, the flowers you've given to the show, are very much part of, come from the heart. So a thank you is perhaps inappropriate in that regard, but thank you for of all the things you could talk about and all the things you could get into talking to and listening to the show. We really appreciate it. For those that have been living under a fucking rock, those that's not true. For those that have been busy living their one short human life, Worlds Beyond Number is an actual play podcast created by Bria Iyengar, Erica Ishii, Lou Wilson, and myself, scored and sound designed by the incredible Taylor Moore of Fortunate Horse. And we have great other members of our team too. Jared Olson has come on as a sound designer and FX.
Stolen from Unprepared Casters.
Hey, unprepared. Sorry to Unprepared Caster. My apologies, Unprepared Casters. But Jared, we are happy we stole you. But I just wanted to say that we have a fireside, we have a Patreon where we have a bunch of extras. We have an 8-episode adventure of the main characters as children that is beautifully scored and sound designed. We have fireside chats where we get into the nitty gritty and the behind the scenes of every episode. We have the witch class. We have the Citadel of the Wizards subclass. There's gaming goodies and audio goodies and amazing art and all kinds of other stuff. So please come check out the Patreon. And it helps support the show and helps us grow. So we really appreciate it.
And if you want to know why I know where I was able to name places in the world of Umora, there's a map that got put up. And that's, I was like, I need a forest. And I was like, here's a forest. Oh, here's a town. Perfect. All of this is going to line up into my little story I want to tell. It's so good. You also get the clearing, which is Brennan, you monster.
Hey.
It hadn't aired the last time we spoke. Good God.
I cannot be clearer. Dogs are not safe in my games. Okay. I cannot be any clearer than I've already been. It was such a joy. Well, I think 12, I'm like equally proud of 12 Brooks and the clearings. For people that don't know, we do interludes, which are fully improvised from a single prompt world building adventure stories in Umora. So if you want to see us really at our capital I improv, like us sort of going in our top gear to create and world build together extemporaneously, the interludes, which are on the fireside, I'm just so proud of. And they're whimsical and wonderful until suddenly they're not. And the clearing was
I think the thing I love about the clearing is it was such a different character from Lou than I've ever seen him play. And that was such a joy to watch him explore that space of like just a lunatic, a vile lunatic.
Lou, me and Lou have been doing a show together in Los Angeles. We try to do it monthly as schedules allow. Our House of Gains.
Yes, I almost called it Strongman. I know that's not it. House of Gains. Yes,
House of Gains, because we started as workout buddies. But House of Gains, which is phenomenally fun, we do, and we have been raising funds for the past year for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, of which we have raised more than $10,000 in 2024. And it's a joy and a privilege to be able to do that show with him. Our simpatico as improvisational partners, I think, is really special because Lou knows how to drive story from the player's seat, which is, by the way, the only place to drive it from. I really, I've gone on this soapbox before, but GMs and DMs are not storytellers. In my opinion, like players should be driving the agency and momentum of the story, and what you are as a GM is grommet on the train laying track ahead of it. You're trying to be reactive to the intentions and agency of your players in the best case scenarios and circumstances. With beginning players, sometimes you put a heavier thumb on the scale to help them get their feet under them. But Lou is the one who, as I'm giving that thing, goes like, oh, I'm going to be a piece of shit. And I go, yes! You have that moment of him going like, yeah, I'm going to be the dude who doesn't believe in the sacred, who's going to, no spoilers for everyone else there, but does some horrifying shit, all to pay a harrowing price. And it's so great. It's great.
So good. We are so close to the time of running out. I do want to ask you about Ogbert, because I've talked to so many people about very important people, and Ogbert was incredible. Brennan, what the fuck?
Wow, thank you. I remember not one element of recording that show. I was in what my doctor referred to as a sweat cyclone. I was in a inner fursuit sweat hell of overheating body temperature. When I watched it, was my first time experiencing any of the things that I said or that were said to me. And it was beautiful. And Vic, everything about that show is actually a testament to Vic, like coming in and being a strange caveman physicist from the woods. Vic Michaelis is just unstoppable, and they cannot receive enough flowers.
Really excited for you and Izzy's wrestling episode, we'll say. I just like the vibes of what I get.
My wife is the funniest person on the planet Earth, and it's watching her and Vic specifically, who are I'm really grateful for like their presence in each other's lives. I just really I love them a whole lot. Both them meaning Vic and them meaning Vic and Izzy. But the it's so special. That episode's going to be such a fucking hoot when that comes out. There's so many exciting things on the horizon. I could not be more excited.
Yeah. Game Changer just recorded. How's the Daffy Bugs relationship going? Good. We excited for you. You just went fully dead in the eyes.
Jordan, strap in. That's all I'm going to say, man. You got to strap in.
Incredible. I can't wait. Brennan, this has been... I want to end with something that I've been thinking about a lot, because I have a 3-year-old son.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got a young child out there as well. And it's made, first of all, like fundamentally changed everything about me, which is not a thing I knew was possible. My level of patience has grown so much just out of necessity. But it's really weird because like I went to the NADPOD 5-year anniversary show at Carnegie Hall. It was delightful. And like I was thinking about that. So I started doing this thing whenever I travel without my son, I get him a postcard and I write like a thing that I think he would have loved that I did, that he wasn't there for me, and like a thing I want to experience with him. And I was thinking about like Worlds Beyond Number and NADPOD and these longer form shows. Like, will there be a time when he hits that age where I'm like, hey, I want you to experience this like incredible storytelling with me? And I was wondering if you have had that thought as your storytelling of like, oh, I've got the wizard Sunny coming up. Like, I want her to get to experience these beautiful stories that I love.
It's so fascinating. I feel like, I mean, yes, right? Like, I had the fondest memories of my dad showing me like Kurosawa movies as a kid, and James Cagney, and my mom sharing different like mythologies and folklore and stories together. So, like, sharing that is incredible. I definitely do not want to push, you know. It's a weird thing because even though I'm very proud of the stories that I've gotten to tell and the people that I've gotten to tell them with, you don't want to look at your kid and be like, tough break, kiddo. You happen to be born to some actual play performers. Strap in for 5,000 hours of content. Even though, again, if she wants to, that's awesome. But, you know, I also would not be surprised if a young child is not like, I want to hear my dad's podcast. So, which is now the world. My dad's podcast is a phrase that is going to start being said more and more till it reaches a critical mass at a certain point. But I think that I'm really excited to just share art and media with her, and I think also like you sharing the stuff I make would be great, but it's more about sharing the stuff that I'm inspired by. You want to share the things that lit a fire in your mind, and it's great. I think it's very There's been a lot of positive developments in fatherhood. I'm sure we could compare notes. The main note comparison for me is I think it's been very good for my mental health in a lot of ways, because even though it's the hardest thing I've ever done, the sense of purpose and joy is second to none, and purpose and joy are what makes life good. And I think also too, this is a funny thing I've said to people. I don't know if you've experienced this. My anxiety is way down since becoming a father, because I've told people, do you know you need energy to be anxious? If you are as exhausted as I am, you can't broadcast catastrophizations and fictions of bad things that might happen. Your phone's in the toilet right now. Like that's the problem. You're like, everything is immediate. And so I find that the level of tiredness has actually insulated me from some bad mental health practices, which is good.
Amazing. Brennan, thank you so much. I'll see you January 18th for Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières. This is absolutely delightful. I can't wait for the conclusionary arc of The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One, and then Space Adventures and the end of Evan Kelp tonight. We're recording on the finale. We didn't even talk about Miss Meg. It's so good. You're so talented, and Evan is so upsetting. I love him so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, my friend. A delight, a privilege, and an honor to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Amazing. And I don't know how to end an interview, so I'm just going to hit stop recording.
Stop recording! Ah!